Hi guys, welcome to today's lesson. Today we're going to be talking about the use of deadly force. Um, Kind of an accessory to shooting. It's a question people ask sometimes. What is deadly force? How does it work in the law? When can I use it? What is it? All right, so we're going to just jump right in and start talking about what deadly force is. Deadly force is the amount of force that could cause you death or serious bodily injury. Okay, that's what deadly force is. What any kind of force that could be capable of causing you to die or receive serious bodily injury. Now, what is serious bodily injury? Okay, in the law, they look at serious bodily injury as broken bones, loss of consciousness, large, painful, bleeding wounds, um, any injury with a substantial risk of death. Those are things that are considered serious bodily injury. So anytime you hear deadly force, people you'll always hear that death or serious bodily injury, any kind of a damage to you that could cause that. Before you can use your own deadly force against somebody, you have to be presented with a deadly force situation. Okay, so before you can legally use deadly force, you have to be in a deadly force situation. Using a firearm is inherently using deadly force. Okay, if you point a gun at somebody, shoot at somebody, you are using deadly force. Before you can use deadly force, you have to be in that deadly force situation. So before you can use that level of force against somebody else, you have to be having that level of force used against you before you can even threaten to use that level of force. Okay, you displaying a firearm is using deadly force. You pulling a gun out and showing it to somebody is using deadly force. Pointing it at somebody is using deadly force. And of course, by the time you're pulling the trigger, all of that is using deadly force. Before you can do any of that, before you can even display a firearm, you have to be in a situation where deadly force is authorized. Okay, you can't just kind of, it's not a magic talisman that can warn people away. If somebody's just doing something that you don't like, you can't show them a gun to make them not do that, because if you do that, then you're threatening them with deadly force and they've not actually threatened you yet. So you've got to be careful in these situations that you don't wind up becoming legally the aggressor. All right. And throughout the course, while we're talking about this, do know that a situation can be dynamic and fluid, and who's the aggressor in the situation could change. Okay, you may start out being the victim, and throughout the course of the encounter, you could wind up being the aggressor. And I'll talk more about that here in just a second. So that's what deadly force is. It's the amount of force necessary to cause death or serious bodily injury, and we've talked about what serious bodily injury looks like. Now, before you can use your firearm, that situation has to be in existence. Somebody has to have demonstrated that they have the intent, the ability, and the opportunity to cause you death or serious bodily injury. Okay, they they can demonstrate intent in various ways. They can tell you, "I'm going to kill you." They can swing a bat at you. They can be pointing a gun or a knife or holding a knife on you. Any of those things could demonstrate intent. They have to have the ability to use whatever it is that they're planning on using. Okay, so if the person has a bat and they say, "I'm going to kill you," but there's a 12-foot chain link fence between you and them, then just because they have it and they have the intent, they don't have the ability to use it right now. Okay, once they gain that ability, so if they go over the fence or they come around the fence or whatever, then that is given them the ability to use it. Same opportunity. Okay, if they don't have the opportunity, then you can't say, "Well, the guy wanted to kill me and he had a bat." Yeah, but he couldn't because there was a car between you and him, or there was a chain link fence between you and him. So they have to have those components: the ability to cause you death or great bodily harm, and have to have demonstrated the intent. Okay, guy's walking through the parking lot of Walmart and he has a bat. That doesn't mean he's necessarily a deadly force threat to you. It does mean you need to be paying attention to him, but you need to be gauging his intent. If he's just taking the bat back into Walmart to return it, that's different than a guy that's walking through the parking lot wanting to bash people's heads in. You have to be able to articulate to a jury why you felt this guy was a threat, and you're going to have to be able to do that. So notice I haven't mentioned guns a whole lot as far as threat to you yet, because it doesn't have to be a gun. All right, people automatically assume that the person needs a weapon, but not necessarily. I mentioned a bat, bats and knives and clubs and guns and stuff like that. Those are all, of course, considered common threats, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that. Okay, a size disparity could be all the weapon the person needs. Remember, all they have to do is be able to have enough force to cause you death or great bodily harm. So if I'm a 300-pound football player and you're a 100-pound female, I don't need a weapon. Okay, I am the weapon. If I intend to cause you death or great bodily harm and I can get a hold of you, I can make that happen. All right, so I am the weapon. If I demonstrate intent, that's sufficient. If it's me, the 300-pound football player, and there's another guy of equal size, then there's no size disparity there. So the two guys of equal size, roughly the same age, roughly the same ability, get into a fight, it's just a fight. Okay, neither one of them are going to be able to resort to using deadly force because they're fairly well equally matched. Okay, so as long as you're fairly well equally matched, it's kind of hard for you to resort to deadly force. Now, if there's a numbers disparity, though, okay, if there's me against 3 other guys, and those 3 other guys have demonstrated the intent to cause me death or great bodily harm, they have the ability by their numbers. Okay, if there's 3 of them, if 3 guys that even if they're the same size as you, if they get a hold of you, they can do you some damage. So a size disparity, numbers disparity, physical ability disparity, those can all constitute the ability to cause you death or great bodily harm. Still got to have the intent, and they still have to be using the opportunity to put that into effect. But if they are, then you can respond with your own deadly force. How do you do that? All right. If you have a firearm and you are responding to a deadly force threat, how can you do that? Legally, what you are doing, you are shooting to stop the threat. This person or these people have demonstrated an intent to cause you death or great bodily harm. You want to stop that threat against yourself, so you are going to shoot. Okay, so you draw the gun, and what you're doing legally is you are shooting to stop the threat. Shooting to stop the threat, and that is it. Okay, they have presented you with a deadly force threat. You can shoot to stop that threat. If you draw the gun and they run away, the threat's over. You won. Okay, so you don't have to actually shoot. If you do get to the point where you need to pull the trigger and you start shooting, you shoot to stop the threat. You pull the trigger one time, the guy's done, then you're done. Okay, you pull the trigger 14 times before he stops. Whatever it takes. All right, if he is still presenting you with a deadly force threat, you can keep shooting. As soon as he ceases being a deadly force threat, you got to quit shooting. That's where that fluidity I talked about before. This guy pulls a knife on you. You pull a gun on him and he drops the knife and runs away. You stop the threat. If you pursue him now, you become the aggressor. Okay? He could then legally resort to defending himself because he's no longer an aggressor to you. He's running away. You chase him out the door. He can now use deadly force justifiably against you. Okay, so you shoot to stop the threat. That's all you can do is you shoot to stop the threat. There's no such thing in the law as shooting to kill. Okay, you're shooting to stop. If the person happens to die, that's regrettable. We as humans, though, are fairly resilient creatures. Okay, you can take a whole lot of damage, especially from handguns, and not die. All right, with modern medicine and whatnot. So just because you shoot the person doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to die. But you need to know that that should not be your goal. Okay, the whole wives' tales you hear on people talking about, if you got to make sure there's only one story to tell, and if you shoot somebody and they fall outside your house, make sure you drag them back in and stuff like that. No. I'm sure if you're watching this, you've seen at least one episode of CSI. All right, they're going to figure that stuff out. And when they do, guess who's going down then? All right, if you alter a crime scene, bad day for you. Okay, so if you get in a deadly force scenario, you wind up shooting. Okay, That's what happens. If that person winds up dying, that's regrettable. But do not do anything to make that more likely to happen. You want to stop this person. That's all. Stop them from doing whatever it was that made you start shooting them. Okay? No shooting to kill. There's also no shooting to warn. All right? Remember, if you've got the gun in your hands and bullets come out of it, you own them bullets. Wherever they go, whatever they hit, you bought. All right? You can just go ahead and assume there's a lawyer attached to every one of those bullets. All right? So if you don't have a specific deadly force threat, you just feel kind of sketchy. You know, you hear a noise outside and you want to scare whatever it is off. If you step outside and crank off a couple of rounds into the air with your gun, then all them bullets you own. And you weren't justified in pulling the trigger because you didn't have a specific deadly force threat. So you have to have a specific deadly force threat against yourself, and you have to be directing your force with those bullets to that threat, not just some random noise you're trying to make in the air or shooting into the ground to scare somebody. And there's also no such thing as shooting to wound, okay? No shooting to kill, no shooting to warn, no shooting to wound, okay? You're not that good. I'm not that good, all right? You're not going to shoot the gun out of somebody's hands. You're not going to shoot them in the shoulder or the knee or none of that stuff and just kind of shoo them off. That's not what a gun's for. A gun is inherently using deadly force. And if you're just like, well, that guy's kind of sketchy. I don't want him around me, so I'll just shoot him in the knee or something, and that'll make him go away. No. That's going to seriously injure him, and if you are not justified in doing that, you're going to jail. What happens if you try that? You shoot at his knee, and you hit him in the femoral artery, and he bleeds out in 2 minutes. Now you killed a dude because you wanted to shoo him away. Wrong answer. All right, you shoot to stop. You have to be presented with a true, legitimate, deadly force threat. If you are, you shoot to stop. When that person stops, you quit shooting. That's all. All right. Okay, so that is how that works. If you're on the street, you're someplace you're legally allowed to be. You're anywhere in this country. Let's stay in Tennessee right now. You're anywhere in Tennessee you're legally allowed to be, and you are presented with a deadly force threat. You do not have a duty to retreat. Okay, in some states you'll hear this referred to as stand your ground laws. No duty to retreat. If you're someplace you're legally allowed to be and somebody presents you with a deadly force threat, you can respond to that deadly force threat with your own deadly force. Now, just because in the law there's no duty to retreat, that doesn't mean that sometimes retreating might not be the best plan. All right, I don't have to run away from you if you are presenting me with a deadly force threat, but getting distance from you may help me be able to more effectively use my response to you. Okay, what I mean by that, if I'm standing at a bus stop, okay, and there's a bench that, I'm sitting on a bench and I just stand up and there's a bench right behind me. If you come approaching me with a ball bat telling me that you're going to kill me, if I stand my ground, I've got an obstacle behind me and you're approaching me with a bat. I don't legally have to try to get away from you because I'm where I'm supposed to be. I'm legally here. This is completely okay what I'm doing. You approach me with a bat and you're telling me you're going to kill me. If I get behind, step over the bench and put the bench between me and you, that gives me a better tactical position. Okay, I can more readily respond to you, and it gives something that's going to slow you down. Okay, you're going to have to either jump over the bench, jump up on top of the bench, or go around it, and it's going to give me a little bit more distance from you. Okay, I want to be outside the swing of your bat, for sure. All right, but I don't have to do that legally. Right? Just because you don't have to legally do something doesn't mean that you shouldn't probably do it or possibly do it for tactical situation. Okay, so no duty to retreat. That's on the street. Now, in your house, we're in a different situation. In your house, you fall under what's called the castle doctrine. Okay, castle doctrine, the old English common law. Your home is your castle. So in our home, the situation's a little different. Okay, if somebody enters our home, we can assume they're not bringing cookies with them. Okay, so we assume they have that intent when they enter our home. if they unlawfully and forcibly entered your house. Okay, those 2 points are key. Unlawful, forcible entry. Unlawful, forcible entry. If they unlawfully and forcibly enter your home, business, dwelling, or vehicle, then you can use deadly force. It gives you a higher ability. You have to do less articulation of why they were a threat to you because they're already presumed to be a threat if they've done those. Unlawful and forcible entry. Unlawful, all that means is they don't belong there. It's your house. You didn't invite them in. They don't belong in your house. Okay. If you didn't invite them in, then they're good. They're open season on them pretty much. The forcible entry, though. A lot of people think forcible entry, the person has to have broken a window, kicked in a door, something like that. That's not the case. Okay, the only thing that's required to meet the definition of forcible entry, believe it or not, is something as simple as a beaded curtain. Okay, if you have a beaded curtain and instead of a screen door, you have your front door standing wide open, but there's a beaded curtain there. If somebody parts those beads to enter your house, they used force to enter your house. Okay. The only thing that doesn't count as forcible entry is if you have a door standing wide open, no kind of barrier at all. Say if you leave your garage door standing wide open. If your garage door standing wide open, somebody walks right in it, they did not use force to enter your house. Okay, now when they go through the garage and open up the kitchen door to go in there, now they've used force to enter your house. But while they're in the garage, they didn't use any force because you left the garage door open. An open door, legally, there's a theory called an open door is an invitation. Okay, so if the door's closed, doesn't have to be locked. It can be a screen door. If they use any force at all to enter your house, that constitutes force. So forcible entry, you didn't invite them, so that's unlawful. Now you are covered under castle doctrine, and you can use that to defend yourself in your castle. Okay. Notice vehicle is part of that. If you're in your house and somebody unlawfully and forcibly enters your vehicle while you're in your vehicle, you can respond to that just like you could if you were in your home. All right. Now, once again, just like with the no duty to retreat, just because you don't have to do something doesn't mean that you may not want to do something. All right. Sometimes retreating might give you a better tactical advantage. Just because somebody breaks into your house and you can legally shoot them doesn't mean that you necessarily should legally shoot them. Okay, if you say, get out of my house, I've got a gun, get out of my house, I'll shoot you, and the guy leaves, great. All right, you didn't have to do no paperwork, you don't have to call the hazmat people in to clean blood up, you're not going to have nights and nights of sleeplessness and stuff like that. So just because you can shoot somebody in your house doesn't mean you necessarily should. And shooting at shadows is a bad plan. Target identification is still key. All right, unless you live completely alone, there shouldn't be nobody in your house. You absolutely must know who that target is. Okay, is that one of your teenagers that's been out and wasn't supposed to be out? A spouse that was been out and ain't supposed to have been out? You need to have target identification. So a light on your gun is a good idea if you're going to use a gun for home defense. If you live in a condo complex, especially one of these big mega-ish condo complexes, it's got like 12 rows and each row is 14 units long. If some college kid comes home drunk and he's in 14D and you're in 12D and he thinks he's in the right row because he's drunk and he's lost all of his stuff, no keys, no wallet, none of that stuff, and he just wants to go to sleep, and he comes home and the door's locked and he just tries to get in, and so he's trying to come through the window because he usually does that, but it's your window and not his window, and he's coming through your window. Can you shoot him? Sure, legally. Should you shoot him? He's just a college kid wanting to sleep it off. Okay, so if you yell at him, get out of my house, I've got a gun, something like that, and hopefully in his drunken stupor he can say, oh, hey man, it's just me, I just want to, then maybe you can keep from shooting somebody that really didn't need to be shot. Okay, so I'm not telling you to hesitate. If you think that you need to defend yourself, by all means do it, but know that sometimes it doesn't come to that. Okay, so that's castle doctrine. You can defend yourself or other people in your home, business, dwelling, or vehicle. You are defending the lives there, not the property. Know that. So if you come home, there's nobody in your house, you come home from a trip with your family and the door's standing wide open on your house, don't go in the house. Okay, stay out in the driveway, call the cops, let the cops come and deal with it. But yeah, you don't want to go in there then and start trying to defend property. If you come home and people are taking stuff out of your house and putting it in a truck, you're not defending lives at that point. You're defending property, and you can't use deadly force to defend property. Now, yeah, you can yell out there and tell them to stop and all that kind of stuff. But you really want to get the cops involved in something like that. If you are in your vehicle and somebody tries to get in the vehicle with you, castle doctrine. Okay, if you're in the store and you come out and somebody's in your car stealing stuff or stealing your car, that's property theft. Okay, you can't use a firearm to defend property. And animals are considered property, just so you know, not people. Okay, so you can use your firearm to defend yourself in certain circumstances, and you can use your firearm also to defend a third person in certain circumstances. The way Tennessee law says, you can defend a third person if they would be able to defend themselves, they just don't have the ability. Okay, if a person is in a situation where if they had a firearm or the ability to respond with deadly force, they just don't have it, then you can use your deadly force to defend that third person. So, if somebody's being attacked, somebody's being stabbed or hit with a bat or has a gun pulled on them or something like that, they are in a deadly force threat. They just don't have the ability to respond. Either they're already too far unconscious or damaged, or they just don't have the device and ability. They don't have a gun. You can use your gun to defend that person. But you better know what's going on. All right? You better have a clear understanding of what's going on in that situation. Me personally, if I'm not intimately familiar with the situation, I'm going to have a real hard time just jumping in and defending a third person. It better be super clear. You better have all the information. There's a good case happened here in Tennessee a couple of years ago. A concealed carry guy, he comes on a scene where a man and a woman are fighting. The man has a knife. There's blood all over both of them, and there's arguing and struggling and stuff. And so the concealed carry guy, pulls out his gun and shoots the man with the knife, because you would think that probably is what needs to happen. Turns out, though, just before he got there, the woman had stabbed the guy in the chest, and the guy pulls the knife out of his own chest and is trying to keep it away from the woman. He's got blood all over him. There's blood all over the knife. I'm sure there's blood all over her by that point. But it's an argument and a struggle, and this guy comes on it, and with all the adrenaline stuff and the auditory exclusion, all he focuses on, bloody man with a knife and a woman fighting. Man must need to get shot, so he shoots him and kills him. He was wrong. All right, he did not shoot the correct person. He shouldn't have shot anybody. He should have said, when he drew the gun, he should have told the guy to drop the knife, stop or I'll shoot, something like that, to give the guy an opportunity to not get shot. So you better know what's going on in the situation. All right, if it's not absolutely crystal clear, be a good witness. Really, I mean, I don't want to say pull out your cell phone camera and record it like everybody else does, but you have got to have enough information to be sure you're right, because you're gambling somebody's life and possibly your own life on your decision. So if you feel like you're right, don't hesitate, but make sure you're right. If you guys have any questions, feel free to send them to me. If you got suggestions for videos, if you got critiques or comments on these videos, I'd love to hear them. Thank you guys. Stay safe.